John Stevenson, and I welcome you to the Lunchtime Bible Study. Thank you. Thank you guys for joining me today. So glad you're able to be with us today, and I thank you so very much. Do me a favor. Hit the share button, hit the share if you're on YouTube, or go to YouTube and subscribe to the John Stevenson Online YouTube channel. It'd be great if you do that because there's some things we're doing on that channel, several things. But I am here this week with the Lunchtime Bible Study just to give you some inspiration. We decided to do this Bible study and do it during the midday because sometimes people have lunchtime Bible studies at work. They have conversations at work. They meet and have Bible studies at work. And so we figured, hey, might need a boost up in lunchtime. And I believe that what I say is we pray. What does the Lord want to say? We bring you what thus saith the Lord, at least for some of you anyway. Some of you might be like, oh God, he's here again. Yes, I am here again. But you'll look back on some of these moments and you'll just watch these videos and you'll see God speaking something. I've watched my own videos and go, oh, I needed to hear that. It's anointed. It's anointed. Amen. Well, we've been talking about the expressions of love, and I'm going to continue just briefly today, just stay in your ear with the expressions of love because I found that, love manifests in so many different ways. And sometimes when people talk about love, they come from a perspective of kindness, and being kind is a part of love. It's one of the fruits of the spirit. But that's not all love is. It's funny when people say there's no love at this church. People weren't nice to me. People weren't kind to me. But love is when we talk about God and we talk about love, there's so much involved with love. There's being kind. There's being forgiving. It's being understanding. It's being faithful. That's love. Being gentle, being meek, humble tempered. There's so much that goes into what love is. And so last week we talked about love, and I wanted to show you something in Mark chapter 10. I did because I read this book years ago, and Mark is describing the rich young ruler. He runs to Jesus, and he's giving this example about how this guy runs to Jesus and wants something. And what's always interesting to me is when Jesus looks at him and loves him. Now, Mark's writing this down, and he says Jesus looks at him and he loves him. Well, what does love look like? Evidently, it has a look. And you have to be honest with yourself. We've all been places where we saw people looked at us by the look on their face. And remember, I gave you an example last week. You can have somebody who can say, yes, can I help you? Or, yes, can I help you? Well, there's two different. They said the same exact thing, but they came across differently. One's like, I don't want to be bothered. And the other one is, I do this with marriage counseling. Yes, I'll go with you to the mall, dear. Well, you just said you didn't want to go. Everything in your body language, your facial expressions communicated. And we're trying to get you to see that in your heart, if you got real love in your heart, it's going to communicate. It's going to communicate something. So today I want to just share about hearing versus listening. And I may spend a little time on this. I talk about this sometimes when I'm doing some marriage consulting and coaching and premarital. That's one of the biggest things we spend time on because I'm finding that folks don't know how to listen. Now, there's a difference between hearing and listening. And you listen to get understanding. Proverbs chapter 4 verse 7 says, in all you're getting, get understanding. It's talking about wisdom, and all you're getting, get understanding. But I found this one in the Message Bible, the definition here. I'm going to read that last part. It says, and with all you're acquiring, get understanding, actively seek spiritual discernment, mature comprehension, and logical interpretation. I love that mature comprehension and logical interpretation. You know, I am a person, I just don't like to be misunderstood. And I go to great lengths to not be misunderstood. Some years ago, I made sure I kept my emails concise. If I couldn't say something that was a tense email or tense situation, I made it a point that you wouldn't get over 3 sentences from me because I'd rather talk to you face to face because your body language, your eyes, they say a lot. They communicate a lot. And so when I decided I took mediation. Well, it wasn't I took it. I got trained. I wanted to be a mediator for the state of Maryland. Man, this was 12 years ago, and I got certified as a mediator for the state of Maryland because I wanted to help in communication. I wanted to get involved with it. That was interesting to me. And my facilitator, oh my God, her name is Erica Bitchford. She's wonderful. She's in Baltimore doing some wonderful work in Baltimore. Just stopping murder, it's great. She's doing great. You can look for her. Erica Bridgeford. She is excellent, an excellent facilitator, and she trained us how to listen. And that's one of the biggest things. As a mediator, you need to know how to listen. But I took some of that training and I transferred it over into what I did at church and just in some personal conversations. Now, here's what I found. I was doing it professionally, but then I wasn't really doing it at home with family. And so I had to change that. So, yes, I could hear you. That's the definition of hearing is just getting sound. A simple definition is getting sound. But listening means I take process of that sound, try to my best to understand and comprehend what I am listening to, what I'm hearing. And in conversations, I don't think that always happens, especially when people are upset or they're angry, or they're just people just assume things. There's a lot of assumption that goes on, and it's incredible. I try my best not to assume anything because you don't want to just put your perception onto somebody else of what you feel about something onto somebody else. We find out with salesmen sometimes. My wife was looking for a new sofa, and so she asked me to tag along and go to different stores, and she was on a hunt for sofas. And it's interesting when you go to certain furniture stores, boy, they're like hawks, man. They just jumping out at you. If you went to go to a car dealership, they do the same thing. They jump out at you. And so some of the people were cool. They just, okay, well, look around, let us know when you find something that you like. Some people, well, okay, I can help you. And then the first thing they say, what is the price range? Now, there are a lot of people who want to save money, no question about it. But there are also a lot of people, and I know some people, cost is not the first thing they think about when they go shopping, especially with furniture or something like that. Because, people have been raised that if you're going to get good quality furniture, it's going to cost you a little bit. So people go in with the expectation that they're going to pay a little bit for it. So as a salesman, I personally would not, the first thing I would not come out with is, well, what are you trying to pay? Because if I'm trying to sell you something cheap and I work on commission, then I'm cheating myself out of a bigger commission. Why would I say that? But that's the first thing people, because you think, well, I want to save money, so surely you want to save money. Maybe that's not the case. But take time to listen to the customer. And again, I'm going back to my customer service. I do some coaching and customer service and servanthood. And so one of the things that is bad to do is assume what somebody wants. To make an assumption, you're just sitting back thinking, okay, well, this person looks like this. This person is going to want this. Instead of taking the time to listen to them and not to look at them and to judge them, to get an understanding of really what they want. And it goes vice versa. If you're in sales, you should want to understand the clients and the people that you are serving, but also as a customer, when you go in, you should understand there's certain things that are communicated. And we don't do that enough of that listening in the times that we live in. People are not listening. That's why we're going to war and things, and because there's misunderstandings. It's interesting when you talk to people who've been divorced. It's not that they hate folks. I've had so many people tell me the same thing. I still love him or her. I'm just not in love with them. And then when you get to talking deep to people, you find out that people have grown and the other person just didn't get to understand. It wasn't communicating properly. And so if you deduce everything, blow the dust off of everything to find out why they really called an end to their marriage, it was because somebody didn't listen, or neither one of them were listening or paying attention and getting understanding. And again, I said it earlier, I am a person that will repeat myself. I'm redundant, just so there's understanding, just so that there's understanding. And I think one of the keys to understanding and listening is you got to make sure that if it's something serious, I don't know if I do that over email, text, um, over the phone, um, just because I think is valuable. You got to value relationships, and when you value relationships, you'll make an effort to listen to the person. I've got friends and I've got so many different friends, and they're different in so many different ways. And some of them, you understand that some people that I have that's in my life, they express themselves and they might be loud. Some people that I have in my life, they express themselves differently and they're silent, and there's something going on. But I can't take what this person does and this other person and say, y'all should be this way, or I do it, you should be this way. And that's a mistake. And again, professionally, I'm doing things with listening, but then even in my own household at times, I wasn't listening. I wasn't listening. And sometimes a cry for help manifests in so many different ways. And so you're thinking, oh my God, to get on my nerves, or this is going on, or angry. Well, you ain't speaking to me, I ain't speaking to you. Well, that's because somebody's not listening. And again, if I'm striving to love you and to understand, then I got to pay attention to what you're saying. And if you misunderstand something with me, at least give me the opportunity to explain myself. I had a supervisor, manager, give me a review one time, and I was making sure, that I communicated. I've got certain employees under me. I'm trying to make sure I'm communicating. And in the review, they said I make excuses for things. I was like, make excuses? No, no. You feel like everything has to be explained. Yeah, because I want to make sure. Now, my thing was making sure I'm communicating and all that. They didn't want that. So, and I took offense to that. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm going out of my way to make sure that there's no misunderstandings. That's just how I am. But they took it as I made excuses because I was always trying to explain stuff. Well, this took place. I want to let you know that this took place, and here's why they did this, and so I did this, and they thought it was an excuse. So, okay, well, I won't do that anymore. And then my next wasn't a review. They just came and says, you don't tell us everything. I'm like, okay. Before I got criticized for over explaining things, and then there's things that, okay, do you tell me what we gotta work it out. And sometimes when you're working with groups or individuals, there's that touch and go to work out how they communicate. If I've got to be bilingual, it means I communicate one way, but also I got to understand who my listener is, and or the person receiving the information, because I want to make sure I communicate on the same wavelengths, on the same way so they can understand. And I can't just assume. I have a buddy, he talks a certain way. My wife heard me on the phone with him years ago. She said, "You talk different when you talk to him." Oh yeah, that's how we talk when we talk. And he understands that. I understand him. So, we think about how many times have we heard different words and there's different definitions for different words. Like if I said, man, that lady was on fire. Am I talking about she was literally on fire, or she was on fire in what she was doing? She was on fire in her speech, or fire. What was I saying? What was I communicating? And sometimes we'll use words. There's words that are used, the N word now. It's so common, and people said, well, folks have died over that word. And I've always come back and said, no, folks haven't died over that word. Folks died because other people were evil and killing them. It wasn't because of that. No, so people have different ways they communicate, but if I understand who you are, understand what we're discussing, and I really love you, I'm going to make an effort to try to listen to you to understand. And sometimes in relationships, when there's, this is what I get sometimes with married couples when they're talking, and we practice listening. So I have this carpet that I have, and I said this is the floor. So whoever has the floor gets the opportunity to talk. And so it's funny, so if there's a tense conversation, they'll do it. They'll go through the motions. They'll go, okay, I got the floor. Mm-hmm. 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 Well, no, he'll get the floor. She's got the floor. So he's going, uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. I got the floor now. He'll take the floor. Okay, now that I got the floor, first, it's a rebuttal. I didn't do this. Second, I did do this. He just heard what she said. He didn't really listen. And sometimes when you're listening, my intent is to get a full understanding of why you feel the way you do. And if you sit back, especially those who are born again, and you just, our Lord, help me understand what the issue is here. And if there's something with me, I want to change it. So I don't have a rebuttal for it. If it's something that's truth, all I can do is accept the truth. So if it's something that's a lie, sometimes people say, well, you're lying. I don't do that. No, it wasn't a lie. He or she just misunderstood something. Okay, no, let me explain this. Here's why I do this. And when I grew up, this is what we did. It wasn't that I'm trying to take something from you or do something bad to you. This is what I'm just how I made this what we did. I wasn't trying to do anything evil. It's just a matter of how we listen. I ran a training with some of the youth leaders at my church some years ago, and we just practiced what it was to listen. And some people came up with, well, I think the reason why she said this because she did this, she did that, and when she was young, it's probably no. Now you're psychoanalyzing her. That's not what we're. No, what did she say? And if I don't know you, all I can do is I can just go by what you say. And if I don't understand something, I should ask a question. Okay, I just want to be clear. What do you mean by that? And sometimes when I'm in some of these coaching sessions, I say, okay, stop right there. I want to make sure I got you. What do you mean by that? Well, everybody knows that this means no, everybody doesn't know. And who is everybody? What do you mean by what you're saying? Now, some of you all out there probably saying that's just too much work. It's so petty. No, because the reason we have conflict sometimes in relationships is because there's no listening and there's no understanding. We want to make sure that we're clear in what we're saying. And so, even now with the Bible, people have their different interpretations of what Jesus says. And sometimes, if you just go a little, what does this say and how do you read it? And to understand there's definitions in the Hebrew and the Greek, like there's a couple of different definitions for power. So you can't just take that and go, power means this. And especially if we have a Western thinking and we read that Bible, which is written in the East, then you're gonna translate that thing based on how you define something. You need to know the writers and the times they were living in, and you can understand things different. And you'll go, oh my God, this is why they said this. This is why they did this. But think about in your own household. This generation, this younger generation, I'm talking about 21 and under, they think totally different. And you can't put them in a box at your 60-year-old self thinking that this is how they should be thinking. They're growing up in a different generation, technology. And you fussing about all that social media is evil, it's bad. It's, oh, God, the devil's behind it. Way back in the 50s, television was evil and bad, but now everybody's got one. They got them on their phones. Times change, things shift. And if you understand that, you'll understand that communication is totally different than when I grew up. And so, because I love, I try to get understanding. Now, I will tell you one thing I don't understand is some of the new hip hop. I just have a hard time understanding it. Boy, I tell you, boy, I talk to my sons, and it's interesting because they're different generations. I just can't get with the trap rap. I just can't get with it, man. So my son John, he told me, man, that hip hop, y'all, dad, you could predict what they were saying. Da, 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 da. That's old. I'm with you, man. I'm with you on that, John. Yeah, back in the late 70s, early 80s, but it was hot back then. We were, Sugar Hill Gang and the Furious Five. Oh my God, Grandmaster Flash, Furious Five, all that stuff. But later on, rap changed, communication changed, how they rap changed. Hip hop subculture, it's a way of communicating that some folks don't understand. It's just noise. It's just this. No, it's a culture. It's a subculture, and it's the way they communicate it. And they took what they had in the streets and their experiences, and they brought it out to the mainstream. And there are generations that understand it, and some don't. Don't mean it's bad. Just means it's different. So I want you to think about that. How do you listen? Are you listening to understand? Are you listening to wait your turn? Or are you just hearing to wait your turn when you're in conflict? Or real love goes to try to understand. And it takes some work. I am your brother here. He is still working on that. All right. Well, I am pretty much done with this Bible study. If you guys got, just go ahead and leave some comments. Give some examples. You're welcome to share. I don't have a problem with that. Thank you. Thank you to all of you who are your faithful giving. If you see fit and the Lord talks to you, please come on and sow into the ministry. jsmonline.org is the website. You can go ahead and click that. There's a donate button, or you can text to give. Yes, we do have that option. 73256. You can go ahead and you can send a text to that. Put the keyword as JSM. It'll take you into our portal. You can give accordingly, or you can mail it in to John Stevenson Ministries, Vision for Change, P.O. Box 7901, Gaithersburg, Maryland 20898. Listen, everything you give goes to the ministry. We thank you so very much for what you're sowing into. What are you sowing into? Well, we do teach the word. We are involved in the community. Sometimes there's things that come up and we give to people that are in need. It just depends on what's going on and what the Lord leads us to do. But, everything is a nonprofit. You get the tax write-off for it. But don't give because of that. Give because God tells you to give and because you want to help. You want to help people change their lives. One of the visions that we have here is that if you can see the vision, you can be the vision that you see. We're working on shifting people's mindsets to help love folks, give to folks and serve folks. So that's the motto, that we love, give, and serve. So you are a part of that when you give, and we pray over every seed that comes into the ministry. All right, every platform that I'm on, and I end what I do on our podcast or where we are, it's the same thing. We believe this, and we want you to believe it and speak it out of your mouth, that all things are possible if you can just believe. All right, my name is John. I love you guys so very, very much. Thank you for being a part of the Lunchtime Bible Study. Have a good day.